is Rabbi Yehuda Levin. We're standing across the street from Maimonides Hospital. If you notice, looking right over there, you see a tall building, another tall building. That small building over there is the emergency room of Maimonides. In the last week, the New York Post had an expose that included information about the horrific situation of people suffering in an overcrowded emergency room of Maimonides. And yet, they have built a cancer center which is not being utilized, which in her new book, Hospital, Julie Salomon, that spent a year interviewing people and doing investigative reporting on Maimonides, found that it's woefully underused and that there was a big mistake made by Maimonides administration in even thinking that they could attract enough people to leave places like Sloan Kettering. So they wasted millions of dollars, $5 million just on a machine to deal with cancer patients, and millions more in buying and equipping a brand new hospital building. We tell Maimonides that they should make all of that space into emergency room space so that all of our people should be serviced. Let's go back in the history of Maimonides. It started off in 1911, 1919. Maimonides Hospital was a Jewish hospital. It was called Beth Moses Israel Hospital. It was built upon the blood, sweat, tears, and money of Jewish people, primarily for the Jewish community. Now, it's very nice to do charity and to help as many people as possible, but Maimonides has now made a misplaced priority. They're advertising how they service 67 languages. It's like a Tower of Babel. They can't deal with people, they can't deal with things, and therefore a lot of our people in the local neighborhood and community are being hurt. The New York Post interviewed several people who spent 2 days in the emergency room and were not helped. A woman got up to go to the bathroom and lost her seat in the emergency room. In the emergency room here now, where people sometimes have to wait an entire day or more for service, the people who accompany the children or the older people who have to be the emergency patients are not given a seat so they could stand. Even elderly husbands or elderly wives or elderly grandparents can stand for hours at a time, hours and hours. Maimonides has no consideration. Their vice president for external affairs was brought by Pam Breyer. He is the former executive director of Planned Parenthood, who promotes abortion on demand. The head of teenage adolescent medicine went to testify in front of Congress and was the leader of the doctors who testified that women, young girls I should say, young women, girls, underage, should be able to get abortions without permission from their parents. These people who head Maimonides, 16 or 17 vice presidents, who get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars salaries and benefits, the president, Pam Breyer, these people are interlopers and carpetbaggers. They don't live in our community, they don't come from our community. If they're sucking out the blood and the money from our community, they go home every night to their Tony residences in Manhattan or in Long Island. Their job is to make this into a MIC hospital. They want to make this into another Manhattan mega hospital. That wasn't what our grandparents and the founders of Maimonides wanted. They wanted Maimonides to be something to serve the local Jewish community. And if there's an overflow and there's extra services, of course we want to help people from other communities. But Maimonides is reaching out to the other 67 languages by intention to dilute the amount of Jews so that they can, who are serviced, by then turning to us and saying, you're only 25 or 30% of the people who are served by the hospital, so you can't dictate what should be done in the hospital. The fact is, this is not what the founders wanted, and this is not like Lutheran Hospital, where Wendy Goldstein, the president and CEO, speaks about how it's a local community hospital responsible for the people. What's even more upsetting is that because of the many people who have died, and this is in reports that we can provide, people have died because of a lack of service in emergency rooms. Other people have developed terrible medical conditions. Most recently in Boro Park we had a Rabbi Kalish and a Mr. Gutman from the Satmar community right here in Boro Park West, who suffered tremendously by being in Maimonides Hospital, and thank God Rabbi Gutman, Mr. Gutman, was taken out in time. The fact of the matter is that there was a Vad Refuah, an organization of Orthodox Jews who was formed because of all of the horror stories. They were supposed to monitor these stories, and they were supposed to report back to our community and act as an ombudsman for us. Do you know the number of the Vad Refuah? It's the biggest secret in the entire society. Nobody knows how to get in touch with them. The top brass of Vad Refuah are under the influence of the Maimonides administration. They're not doing the job. And when they were asked recently by Boro Park West officials who are advocating for our community, they were asked, what has the Vad Refuah accomplished? They admitted very, very little has been accomplished, but at least there's a dialogue. To the Vad Refuah and to the Orthodox Jews who are in the big knackers, who are in the Board of Trustees, and who also seem to be under the thumb of an administration of carpetbaggers and interlopers, we say to you at this point, you have blood on your hands. What do I mean by that? You're not doing the job. There's a medical dangerous situation here. People are being hurt, people are being harmed. There's a hostility that starts from the very, very top with the buildings that they're doing, the real estate they're buying, jacking up the prices artificially in the neighborhood. They own tens and tens of residential buildings. They've driven out people. In former years, they did this by blockbusting, which was totally illegal and immoral. Pam Breyer, the president, apologized for it, but they're doing more of the same thing. They own 10 large apartment buildings. People can't get a quorum, a minyan, in the middle of the week in 10 or more synagogues, shuls here in the neighborhood. What we're saying is as follows. We want our hospital back. It should start to be used for local people. We want people who are not hostile. Not only is the administration hostile, but it goes down to the nurses. At night, the TVs blare. The nurses laugh out loud. They come in, they open up all the lights. There's no consideration. In other hospitals, you see signs, shh, people are sleeping. Not in Maimonides. Maimonides is a total disdain and a hostility. So it's not only a question of real estate. This is a hospital that has gone against its mandate. Its mandate wasn't to be Mick Hospital, a big, huge megalopolis hospital. It was to serve the local people. We're calling on Maimonides to give us back our hospital. We're calling on the Vad Refuah to start publishing reports, openly giving us statistics of all the horrific things that are being covered up. Not only covered up by Maimonides Hospital, their administration, but through benign neglect by Orthodox Jews who hobnob and rub shoulders with the hoity-toities at Maimonides, the Board of Trustees. We're calling on the Vad Refuah. If you can't do the job and the Board of Trustees can't do the job, then stop lulling our people into a false sense of security that everything's normal and okay, and resign. And we call upon all the institutions that are getting the breadcrumbs of bribes from Maimonides to pay for sandwiches for Bika Cholem, or for petting zoos, for Nachas Health Net, or whatever it is. All our institutions are doing great jobs. We've got to wean them off the addiction of taking the breadcrumbs from Maimonides. And only then, when we stop taking their little payola, their little payos, will we be able to have a unified Jewish community to see what the problems are with Maimonides. What about Hatzalah that's supposed to save our lives? There was a time that for months they refused to send people to Maimonides emergency room because of the problems there. What changed, Hatzalah? Did you ever tell us why you went back? Is it true that you're getting a certain amount of bounty money for every head that you bring into Maimonides? And if this is true, why and how can we even trust our own Hatzalah? We appreciate you do a great job, but why don't you tell us exactly what's going on inside the emergency room and why things can't be bettered? It seems that Maimonides controls our Jewish media through advertisement, our Jewish organizations through legalized bribes of sandwiches and seminars. It's very nice to have doctors telling us how to take care of cancer of bellies, but what we need more is a nice attitude when our women go to give birth there, and not having Pam Breyer, the president, say, well, we do so much and we don't make any money about the birthing of children. Julie Salmon wrote in her book with Maimonides, it's all about money, and she used words like money, lust, corruption. Shame on Maimonides. We want our hospital back, and we need people, we need our Rabbonim to take charge. We need community leaders who are sonei betza, who hate bribes, legal or illegal types. You understand? and we need people to stand up and say, Maimonides, give us quality medical care. Stop the encroachment and the advancing on the community. Stop driving us out of Boro Park West. We've got to get back to the mandate of this hospital. Thank you very much.